Welcome to the Comfortably Me podcast. I am Vanessa Elaine, your new BFF, and I am all about upgrading life with Christ, breaking away from generational cycles, and becoming comfortable with having tough conversations about faith, healing, friendships, and relationships, and so much more. Get ready to become comfortably you. Welcome back to another episode of Comfortably Me. I have a special guest here with me today, Kosha Joseph. Not only is she a friend of mine, but she is also a licensed therapist, a serial entrepreneur, a wife, a mother, and most importantly, a woman of God. Okay, and she is also just a beautiful person.
Thanks.
And I'm so happy that she is gracing us with her presence, and she has a lot of wisdom to give us. So today's topic, we're going to be discussing healing, and we know how important healing is in order for us to go forward, to do the things of God, to reach our breakthrough, to get to destiny, to live in purpose. We have to heal, because not everybody had a perfect life. If you listen, I know my story. I've been through some things. And if you have been through some things and you can't seem to find your way out of it, or you feel like your life is living in cycles, this is an episode for you. If you're ready for breakthrough, if you're ready for something just to happen for you, or you just need a word, because a word can save your life, this episode is for you. So stay tuned. Okay. Hi, Coach.
This is so exciting, man.
Yes.
Like, listen, this is exciting. It always excites me to talk about stuff that excites me. So
Yes.
I love it.
I know I'm going to get some gems tonight.
Well,
So,
hopefully.
oh, I know I am. Always. It's all, yeah. Listen. So I just want to get into, she has an event that's happening here in Houston, Texas,
Yes.
on April 27th.
Actually, it's April 20th.
April 20th. It's called Her Soul Experience. Explain a little bit about that event and what's the purpose behind it?
To be honest, the event just kind of, the name and everything just kind of dropped in my lap, right? I just released a journal in conjunction with affirmation cards that's called Her Soul, the Healing Journal, Her Soul, Healing Affirmation Cards. And so as I dropped that, I was like, okay, I'm feeling like it's not enough, right? So I'm like, okay, I need something else. So I thought about the whole idea about healing, and I said, okay, what is it that I can do? And I was like, I don't want to do a typical conference like everyone else. You have the business conferences, the
Yes.
empowerment conferences. I said I wanted it to be more than a conference. I wanted it to be more of an experience, right? Surrounding healing, because it is like a piggyback off of the journal and the card. So that's how I came up with Her Soul, the Experience. Yeah. And the purpose of it is to pretty much just elaborate more so on the healing process, what it looks like, get women in the room who are alike. And the whole goal of it was for me in my mind, feeling like I had to set some women free.
Yes.
Because I know when we talk about healing from anything, right, it affects us in our everyday lives. But we have a lot of women that are held hostage by something that's happened that they haven't healed from. And so I was like, I really want to get some women in a room. I want to get some powerful women that have been through some things that can speak on their healing journey.
Yeah.
And I want to get women in the room who can say, I want to sit by someone who may have experienced something that I've went through.
Yeah.
To get them to meet each other. Also attack it from a clinical and spiritual aspect, right?
Yes.
Because I feel like you can't have one without the other. You have to seek God when you comes to healing as well, but also just getting a clinical background on what it looks like, because not everybody has a therapist. Healing does not come with a handbook. So we don't know how to finagle through that. Everyone's healing journey is different, and we don't know what to do with it. So this is just something to kind of help, right? Put women in the mind state to say, you know what, regardless of what I've been through, whatever trauma it was, that I can really get through this. I can get over it. I can forgive. I can forget. and still push forward to where I'm not feeling bound by those things.
Yes.
And so I just kind of felt like God gave it to me. And so I was like, this is big. Like, I think we talked and I was like, I'm kind of scared. Like, I'm normally not afraid when I put on events, but I'm like, feeling that fear kind of furthermore let me know that I was doing something right.
Yes.
And I felt like if God is giving me this, I have to see it through. It's needed, right? It's something different.
Yes.
And I've always been a trendsetter, right? So I'm like, okay, I want to do something different, something new to bring to the women. And so I've been going forward with it. And I just believe in God that, regardless of how many women we have in a room, it's going to be some amazing things happen.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited. I will
Yeah.
be there.
Her soul, the experience. I love
Yes.
it.
Get your tickets. Get your tickets. I'm going to have all of that information listed in the show notes as well as in the description box if you're watching on YouTube. And that's like a job of a midwife when you said it's difficult or you had to birth it out because it starts with you because of course you had to heal through some things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people feel like when you're a therapist, you have it all together. That's not true, right? Being a therapist is true enough my profession, but I'm human first. So everything everyone else experiences, so do I.
Yeah.
So there's trauma and things that I've experienced in my life that I've had to heal from. There's trauma that I've experienced in my life that I haven't healed from. And so the things that I incorporate with other people, I find it sometimes hard to incorporate in my own life. So even though I'm doing this healing conference for other women, I'm doing it for me too.
Yes.
So I'm going to be sitting in the audience just like everyone else because I feel like, hey, it's something that I need,
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm going to get in here with y'all. We're going to get in here and go through with the trenches together because I don't find myself being exempt. I don't find myself knowing it all. I don't find myself having it all together, but I do feel like there are some great things that I can share and bring with other women that they may not have that will help them on their journeys.
That's good. What does healing look like to you?
Oh my God. Healing healing is ugly.
Yeah.
Healing is painful. Healing is scary. I could think of so many things that healing is. It's unpredictable. You know, we go through all types of emotions when we're trying to heal from something.
Yes.
And when we're faced with those emotions, you always feel like, no one wants to feel pain. No one wants to be afraid. So a lot of times when that comes with healing, we sometimes suppress the things that hurt us. And so when we do that, it keeps us from feeling. And so when we're suppressing those things, it's still there.
Yeah.
So it can be any type of trigger, any specific thing that can bring us back. And if we react in a certain way, that's how we can kind of know that, hey, I haven't healed from that. And you can know in your mind that this is something that I need to get past.
So older people, they be stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
And it's just like they have lived with this trauma for so long.
Yeah.
And they die without being healed.
They die without being healed. And a lot of people don't realize that some things are generational.
Yes.
Some things are passed down, especially when it comes to how we handle things. Sometimes when you're growing up, your parents are saying, you got to toughen up. We don't talk about that in this house, or we don't do things this way. And it puts us in this place to where when we get to be adults or teens, kids, we handle things the exact same way. But who's to say that that's the right way?
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, they go to the grave with a lot of different things and a lot of trauma. And I hear people talk a lot of times about their grandmothers, ancestors, and it's like, okay, hey, they went through and suffered so much.
Yes.
But you would never know.
Nope.
They didn't talk about it. They didn't whine about it. If they suffered, it was behind closed doors.
They didn't even shed a tear.
At all. Everyone felt that their grandmothers were so strong. Oh, my grandmother didn't go through nothing. No. And that's when you find a person who's perfected carrying the weight of so many things without showing it to the people that's around them.
What does that do to someone psychologically? What is going on in their brain?
It's definitely harmful. right? Because you think of when you suppress so many things, and a lot of people use the terminology sometimes where they say their shoulders, they feel like something's very heavy. That's how things get. When we just sweep it under the rug, it gets really, really, really heavy.
Yeah.
And when it gets heavy, sometimes things have to come out. And when they come out, they don't always come out in negative ways. You see people around here that are engaged in violence, murder, all different type of domestic issues, violence. Where do you think a lot of that anger, all of that stuff come from? Bottled up stuff, right?
Yes.
That they have not dealt with. And it comes out in a negative way and it affects everybody around them. And we don't know that, okay, hey, I got to heal myself.
Yeah.
I got to deal with some things right now because it's okay. Some people are saying, like, okay, this is okay for me to do. Or they
Right.
feel as if they don't have a problem. All of that stuff comes from trauma, unhealed trauma.
And I believe that trauma can form diseases in your body, cancer.
Absolutely. People don't realize sometimes the body is so connected. And I've learned so much about that to where when you're dealing with something mentally, it affects you physically. If you're dealing with something physically, it affects you mentally.
Yes.
So it's both ways, right? So it's almost like, okay, when I tell people, hey, when you're taking care of your physical health, make sure you take care of your mental health too. It's the same thing. If you're taking care of your mental health, take care of your physical health. Exactly the same. And they don't realize that it comes in the form of stress. Stress makes you sick,
Yes.
right? And when you're dealing with so much stress, it can cause you to suffer mentally more than you have as well. It can cause you from going to anxiety to depression, from depression to anxiety, anxiety to schizophrenia. It just a lot of things that we're not educated on as Black people
Yeah.
when it comes to that, to understanding because of how things were. And that comes to play when we talk about stigma of mental health, right? We weren't taught to heal. Okay, it's like you deal with something, you move on, you get over it. As such is life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not. And I always teach people and try to tell people that when we deal with stuff, we have to deal with it.
Yes.
Deal with it. No, true enough, we can't change everything, right? And I always say, like don't stress about the things that you can't change,
Right.
but focus on the things that you can. But at some point, you're going to have to deal with everything. You cannot deal with it in the moment, but at some point, you're going to have to deal with it.
And I feel like, well, I know that it has a lot to do with forgiveness.
Yeah.
And sometimes a lot of people feel like, well, if I forgive them, I let them off the hook. But that's not really true because forgiveness is for you. But
Yeah.
it's so hard to wrap your mind around that when you're going through trauma, experiencing pain from someone else caused you. It's
Yeah.
so hard to like get that revelation or let that seep in. So how does someone heal from that? Because I know the first step, if somebody dealt with molestation, rape, and forgiving their abuser, that's the first step in healing, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is hard because it's just like when you go through the stages of grief, you're going to feel different emotions at different times. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel rejection. You're going to feel all of these things. And a lot of times people carry the anger so long, the blame so long. And that's why when we talk about healing, we was like, okay, hey, whatever you went through, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And to get people to realize that it's not their fault, because they do blame themselves, like it's my fault that I did this or that I actually allowed it. But the forgiveness part is the hardest part, because when you blame someone, you expect them to have known better. Why do we expect a person to know better? We're giving them too much credit.
Yeah.
Because not everybody is the same. Not everybody is brought up the same way. So when people take certain actions, we got to look at a lot of different things. And it may not be our responsibility to do that. If a person rapes you, what did they go through in their life that causes them to have this type of action to another person? They may have been raped.
Yeah.
When a person is beating on you and you're experiencing domestic violence, they may have grew up with that in their childhood.
Yeah.
That's all they saw, so that's all they know.
But psychologically, I don't know how that works because I have experienced that. But it's just like if you were in a home and you experienced that and you felt the hurt, you seen the hurt, why would you want to inflict that? But it's just, I guess, habit, or not even habit, but what is that?
It
Clinically, what do
it
they?
is. I can't say that it's habit,
Yeah.
but it's almost like when you talk about practicing something, how many days it takes for you to practice something to make it a habit, right?
Yeah.
If you have a person that has been in a household for so long and have witnessed violence for years and years and years and years, right? They may think that there's not really anything wrong with it,
Right.
right? They may feel like it's normal.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell a lot of people too, when we look at children, kids, being careful with what we subject them to at a young age, because they're like sponges.
Right.
You know, it's almost like, okay, hey, you get a kid going to the school and the parent has to come to the school all the time, and oh, he's cussing the teachers out, he's cussing the kids out. Well, 9 times out of 10, he's seeing a lot of that at home. So he's mimicking behavior. He's mimicking behavior. So a lot of times we have to be careful when it comes to those things. And when we're growing up, all of the clinical stuff just was not a factor back then, right? So parents didn't care sometimes what you saw. I know when I was growing up, it was a lot of time, okay, hey, when adults are talking, you ain't supposed to be in the room, or different, you got, people got whippings back then, right? So a lot of things, the day and age has changed so much. And when you're my age, it's you have to adjust because it's so different.
Yeah.
It's so different. And I kind of understand what you're saying when you say that, like, psychologically, like, well, why would you hurt someone if you've seen someone be hurt like all this time? It's not looked at that way. You think about a lot of people that do things and they say, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I watch Lifetime a lot, so
I feel like it's a lie.
And listen, most people do it because guess what? Some people can look in your face and say, look, I don't care what you went through in your childhood. It's no excuse. And in all actuality, it isn't, right? Because of course you have to still be responsible for your actions, but also a person knowing that there's a reason for it. But just because there may be a clinical reason or generational reason doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it right. So that's why you see a lot of people fighting to break generational curses as they get older. That's not me. That's not the person that I want to be. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my cousin. I don't want to have these behaviors, right? And they're fighting against that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot involved when you're looking at situations like that, and you can't change a person's upbringing.
You sure can't, as much as we want to. Sometimes you got to work it through, because a lot of people,
Yeah,
it's so deeply rooted
very
that
much
you're
so.
praying, you really don't believe what you're praying.
No,
And you need somebody to break it down.
you're skipping steps.
Yes.
You're skipping step. If you're not getting to the core, you think about the symptoms of something, right? You think about a circle like this, and you think about all these little points coming out of the circle, right? All of these points are symptoms, things that's going on. You can address the symptoms all day, but if you don't get to that core, you're going to find yourself going in circles and circles and circles, because you have not gotten to the deep-rooted issue. When you get to the deep-rooted issue, it changes everything else.
Yes.
But most people don't want to get to the deep-rooted issue because it's too painful.
Yeah. I remember when I was going through my healing journey, I feel like you're always healing. I'm going to just say that.
Oh, yeah.
But in the beginning, when I was asking God, like, important questions when I first got saved, and I was like, well, why did I put up with this? Why did I settle in these relationships? Why didn't I leave when I knew, like, why was it so hard? I really wanted to know. And God had to reveal to me something that happened to me when I was younger that is not, I don't know if I forgot, because I don't think so. I would bring it up. Like, very subtle, like to the guys I used to date, I would bring it up, like probably once.
Yeah.
I was molested, but I didn't remember what age. And God reminded me, like, he put it back in my vision, like in a dream, exactly how it happened, where I was, how it happened, who did it. And I'm like, hold on. But I couldn't figure out what age it was. And then that was the next question. So it like I said, when it comes to the root of it, God is going to tell you the root of it. But I also had to seek a therapy. Like, okay, how do I unpack this? Because now I got to forgive this person. And I could keep praying forgiveness, but now it's coming back up because now I remember. So now I have to deal with the hard stuff because God already exposed the root of it. Now, how do I deal with this?
Yeah. But you see
Why?
how that specific thing affected you in your adult life.
Yes.
It carried over.
Yes. And would not even realize that it affected me because it only happened once. And I would think, oh.
And did you ever tell anybody?
Only at the time, only the two boyfriends I had, like people who I was in the longest relationships with.
But nobody else knew.
Nobody else until I got older. So now I say it on my platform because I'm just
and people hold things like that, right? They do. It's a lot of different things. And even in those instances, sometimes people seek apologies from people. You know how many people that just don't get that? And I always tell people, like, when you're in that situation, don't seek an apology. Because guess what? Your healing is for you. You know, as you stated, it's for you. You can't control the other person. Now, if they give it to you, then it's fine. Does it take away the fact that it happened?
No.
So because it doesn't take away the fact that it happened, you still got to get through that.
Yeah.
But some people being raped when they're in relationships and in marriages causes problems there. It causes problems because the trust of feeling violated or feeling taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And when people getting in situations like dating is so different. When you're trying to get to know a person, you just never know a person's deep rooted background. You don't know. So you may see things, you may see what people sometimes call red flags, but it's always because of something.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, each person has to choose what they want to deal with versus not. But it's always something that has happened in a childhood.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't ever say anything. I was talking to a young lady in regards to the conference, and she was like, wow, that'll be good. I was friends with this young lady for 12 years and never knew that she was molested. Never knew it until that day. She never carried it on her shoulders.
Yeah.
She never talked about it. She never wallowed in it. She never mentioned it at all. She held on to that. So it took a simple conversation for her to feel safe in that moment to say it.
Yeah.
But also be honest with herself to say, hey, now is the time for me to really let go of that and set myself free. So that's the whole purpose of trying to heal from trauma. Some people don't ever heal.
Yeah.
Some people figure out ways to navigate through life, carrying the weight of what happened to them.
Yeah.
Some people choose to do it differently. Some people start and don't finish. Right? That's it. I tell people all the time, you know how many people have gotten up out of my chair and walked out of my office because it got too deep. Some people returned, some people didn't. Not everybody can take it.
Yeah.
Right? But I think going through therapy is a start. Acknowledging that it's not your fault, getting past the anger. And even if you have to get past that anger doing therapy. And always knowing, too, that it's a process. That's why I always say when people are here, I was like, you on your journey. Because it is a journey. We don't know if it's going to take 6 months, a year, 2 years. This is your journey. You write the story to your journey.
Yeah.
You can start and say, hey, it got a little bit too tough for me. Let me take a step back. But guess what? When you can say, okay, hey, I'm going to get up and start back again, that shows diligence.
Yes.
That shows that you really, really, really want to break those curses of those traumas and bonds. Because some people can attach what they're doing in their everyday lives to what's happened to them. Fear.
Yeah.
It's clinically necessary. And a lot of people don't realize that to address trauma.
Yeah. And a lot of times, what I want everyone to know is healing doesn't have a time frame.
No.
And healing doesn't look the same. I may heal from something in 6 months. It may take you 5 years. And don't think that something that happened to you when you were younger, or even in your teenage years, or even in your adulthood, you lived with it for so long. What makes you think you're going to be over it in a month of therapy sessions. No, give yourself grace, extend grace to other people, but don't wallow in it. Once something is revealed, that's a good thing. I always think of it like, oh, it's a good thing that this is, now I'm in the know of what's going on.
Yeah. And it goes back to knowing the difference, because sometimes when people wallow in it, they think that that's what they're supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they don't do it, then they feel like they're forgetting it, right? Or they're not addressing it. They don't know that that's an unhealthy way to handle it. So I always tell people a lot of times too, when we go through things, it's just like when people go through breakups and stuff like that, whatever those emotions that you feel, they're normal. Allow yourself to feel them.
Yeah.
I don't care if you got to get on the floor, kick, scream, wallow, whatever you got to do, And so, I mean, and growing up, I've had a lot of friends, we've all been through heartache and breakup. And I remember sometimes even with my friends, like, baby, when they go through, baby, my friend be on the floor screaming and hollering because her heart just hurts so bad I can't do nothing but get on the floor with her. Because but that process is necessary. It's necessary. If you're not going through that, how you expect to get through it?
Yeah.
People talk about going through to get through all the time. But when it comes to putting that into action, it's a whole different story. It's easier said than done. It is easier said than done. I tell anybody, when you're going through that journey, you better expect some ugly things to come out. You better expect some emotions that you probably haven't felt since it happened. You're going to be remembering things. You're going to be reminded. And it's going to bring up all kind of emotions.
Yeah.
So you're going to start feeling things all over again. But the thing about it is, when you have someone to help you navigate through those feelings, right? It's a little bit different than you handling it yourself. That's why I tell people when we're healing. And one of the things that we'll kind of talk about in the conference, because it'll be clinical, spiritual, but also interactive, right? Having an accountability partner.
Oh, that's good.
You never know at any given day who's sitting next to you that may have experienced something that you can help them with.
Right.
Maybe the same thing that you went through. Hey, this is what I do. Hey, this is what I do. And then you have ladies leaving the event with a newfound friendship or connection,
Yeah.
right? To where they can help each other through that. And that's important, because you see sometimes when we pray to God and we say, hey, God, I can't do this without you. I can't do it alone.
Yeah.
So when people are dealing with things in the physical, they don't realize that they have to deal with it supernaturally too, because you need God for that. God is the person that's going to help us through that pain, that sadness, and help us to find that forgiveness for that person. It's in the Bible.
Yeah.
And of course, people talk about all the time, a lot of things are in the Bible, but it's just hard. I know. Like, I would, even as a therapist, I wouldn't dare sit here and tell nobody it's not hard. And nothing in life is easy.
Right.
But you gotta want to do it. And you can't, you have to have the proper tools. God is a part of that tool. He's a tool that you need to help you get through those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people blame God for things that happen to them. Why did you let this happen to me? It affects how they view Christianity. It affects how they view God. It affects their faith.
Yes.
Right? I know for me, when I dealt with the trauma of losing my dad, I was there. I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
So I know I knew better. But I could not stop myself from feeling that in the moment, that my dad was 54 years old. And I'm like, okay, I was angry. Like, why didn't you make him better than take him away? I questioned God, right? My faith wavered. It did. I stopped going to church. I was searching for understanding and answers, because I just didn't know why, and it took me a minute to get through that. I just wasn't, the connection that I knew that I was supposed to have with God was different after that happened. And again, you know better. And people say all the time, hey, you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
But it actually took me 2 years ago getting sick to really, really, really get back to God. And you know, I tell people all the time, like, God is so strategic and amazing. Like, he was like, I'm going to get you back to me. And he brought me down to my knees, because when I was sick and didn't know why and was going through, I had no other choice but to call on God. I had no other choice.
One thing
Right?
about it.
No other choice. It caused me to pray more. It caused me to do so much more. And that was in the moment to where I felt like, okay, I'm looking at what I'm dealing with, but I'm seeing the why behind it.
Yeah.
You know, and for the moment, a long time after that, even sometimes now, I felt so bad. I apologize to God all the time. Like, God, I am so sorry I questioned you. I'm so sorry I doubted you, because I know better, right? And so it took me through that moment to where you kind of understand that when you deal with that trauma, you go through that as well. But not understanding that things happen in life, because people feel like sometimes that, you know, if there's a God, why does he allow certain things to happen?
I don't have the answers for everything, but I know.
You know, God is still real,
Yes.
you know, and there's purpose regardless of what it looks like. There's purpose behind everything.
Everything.
And when you can come through life, because life is life, nobody is exempt from dealing with anything in life.
Right.
So when you deal with life's things, you know, it's hard for people to, you know, how they say praise him in the midst of, because you're going through things. It's hard to still believe when you're going through things.
Yeah.
But I feel like when people are dealing with healing from traumas, like when I say traumas, everybody's trauma is different.
Yeah.
Right? Molestation, domestic violence, rape, murder, death, anything like that is a trauma. And I tell people all the time, like, when it was like, okay, you're dealing with PTSD, it's like, you would think something major happened, like if a person was in a war or something. I was like, oh no, you can get PTSD from anything, right? Because trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
And when you put what that looks like, especially if it's something that transforms your life. I hear a lot of people speak and talk about things that's happened to them and how it's made them to be better people, and how they've learned how to maneuver through certain things. It's difficult. And even in the moments, you still feel something from it, but you still know that you have purpose. So it's really hard to say, hey, yeah, I went through this. Oh, but it's okay. You know, I got over that. Have you really?
Yeah. Not brushing it over the rug. It got to have some triumph in the way you speak about it.
Yeah.
Like that's not a part of your identity. Any trauma that you have gone through, it has been done to you, but it's not you.
It doesn't make you.
It doesn't make you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the message that, you know, it doesn't define who you are.
Yeah.
It's a part of the process. It's a part of your journey, but it doesn't define who you are, because you have so many people that have not succumbed to their trauma. Some people pick up and they move on, right? Do they know that the way that they're moving on is the right way? No.
No.
They just do what they know how to do best. Go on with life.
Until they reach a breaking, if they even never reach a breaking point.
A lot of people do reach breaking points.
Yeah.
It comes out.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't care what, it comes out. You ever encounter someone that's so angry all the time, and you'll be like, where does all this anger come from? It comes out. And sometimes when you get them people down, I always refer back to, you know, when Alana would do her sessions with people, and she really gets deep down to the core. And there's ways that you have to be broke down. And that's okay to be broke down.
Yeah.
It's needed. But why do people feel like they have to be strong all the time?
Because it's hard to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is looked at as a weakness, but it's actually a strength.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's how they were taught to. And you ask yourself, who do you feel struggles the most with vulnerability?
Black people, Black women.
Yeah. But not only that, black men.
Black men, yeah.
So a lot of times when women get in relationships with guys and they show that vulnerability, these are very much appreciated because a lot of times you don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
You're taught to be tough. You're taught to be strong all the time. Sometimes, even with myself, if I go through something, like, I don't want to be strong. I want to go through this because it's necessary. It's a part of the process, right? No, it's not going to feel good all the time. It's not going to look good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding that, okay, hey, this is a process. And I always like, hey, God, I don't know what it is that you're doing. But I can't do anything but trust you because I know for me to be dealing with this, something amazing is about to happen.
Yes. I always like to say this: life only gets better.
It does. I run across so many broken people
Yeah.
that are going through, and it's hurtful as a therapist because I'm not a therapist because I want to. It's not about money. It's about my heart and my passion, and I care about people. So when I see people going through and hurting, it's like, man, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
Even if it's a word of encouragement in the moment. Again, like I said, there's no handbook to tell you do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. That's not how it goes. We don't know how to do it. That's just like when people are coping from certain things. We don't know how to deal with that. And sometimes even as adults, like our kids go through stuff. It's like they don't know how to, feelings are different. And so when you grow up and you say, okay, hey, I've been molested, just like you were able to identify how it's affected you in your adult life.
Yeah.
You were able to go back and pinpoint to say, man, there's a reason that this is happening.
Yeah.
There's probably a reason that I'm attracted to the same type of man.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a reason why I just keep letting things happen and not dealing with it, and not letting it go. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And I was tired of repeating cycles.
And you start going back.
Mm-hmm.
You start going back. You start going back. It's like, man, like something has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it takes you to really stop, think, look back, and even revisit some things,
Yes.
and not be afraid to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's tough, but I want people to understand that it's a process. I want them to understand that it's necessary. I want them to understand that it's needed. And I want them to understand that they can get through it. Like, you can do this. Like, your past don't like your trauma is not going to get you down.
Right.
And if it has, if you've allowed it, then hey, I'm gonna look myself in the mirror today and say, you know what? I've allowed it for too long.
Yes.
Not doing it no more. I'm gonna go ahead and look this ugly monster straight in the head, straight in the eye, and I'm gonna deal with it. And whatever comes with that, we may not be prepared for it, but we deal with it as it go through.
Yeah.
And so that's when you think about the process like that. It's like, oh, okay. And a lot of people's like, well, what makes you decide to do healing? And sometimes people will raise their hand. When you're in a classroom, you know the answer. Teacher asks you a question, your hand goes straight up, right? So it's like, well, who is there out there that needs healing? That needs it, a lot of people don't always raise their hand first.
Because they don't want to seem broken, but in your brokenness is beautiful.
They do not. And so it's almost when you're in church and the pastor say, come one, come all, come to the altar when you know you got something going on, and people probably sitting around and looking at each other like, I don't know if I want to go.
Yeah, I don't want nobody in my business.
When you know what you need, you got to block everything else out, and you got to go get it.
You got to be desperate for it.
You got to be, because it's like, okay, you're going to continue to stay in this state.
Yeah.
Or feeling like, okay, I have it all together. I got it. Or am I going to step out on faith, put one foot in the other and say, okay, hey, let me go and see.
Yeah.
Let me see what this can do for me. Let me see how I can start. Let me see and experience the process. But people have buried stuff so far up under the carpet.
Yeah.
When I say years of things under the carpet, they look at you like, what, I'm finna take it from under there now? Like, why now? So you have to be ready.
Yes.
You have to be ready. So if I tell people a lot of time, if you're not ready, you got to get ready. And a lot of times you could be honest and tell a person, like, you're never going to be ready.
You just got to go for it.
You're just never going to be ready. Right. So you gotta, and I think I was telling you this story. I was telling it to somebody else when we were talking about the analogy of storms and rain. It's just like, okay. And the weather has been crazy in Houston for the past couple of days. And it's like, you're driving and you see these dark spots. And it's like, oh my God, it's pouring down. It's just storming over there. But you got to pass through that.
Yeah.
You can't go to the south. You can't go this way. You can't go backwards. You got to go this way. So in those moments when you're not prepared, what do you do? What do you do?
Right.
Because you see it, you have to go through it. But you're not prepared. You're like, I don't want to go through this storm. I don't want to get wet.
But when you get to the other side, the rainbow is out.
But when you can't go no other way, the only thing you can do is sit down and buckle down and go through it.
Yeah.
And understand I don't know what's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
But I got to go through it. And a lot of times when you get on the other side, you done pass through that little splat of rain, the sun out, the rainbow shining, you done went through like, oh, that was a quick little storm.
Yeah.
You done went through it. So, sometimes you have to look at life differently to know that, to say, if I was in that position to where I had nowhere else to go, and I had to go through the storm, am I going to sit here and wait it out?
Right.
Or am I going to go through it?
I'm going through it every single time because I want to be better. Because I know there's too much is given, much is required, but you got to.
But when you look at it that way, to say, okay, hey, a storm is brewing.
Yeah.
A storm is coming. Or even to say, you know what, I'm in a storm right now. But to be able to have the mentality to say, you know what, I'm coming out of it. I may not know how to do it, but I have faith and know that I'm coming out of it.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it like that and you see those storms, you're not so afraid in the moment. Sometimes people get to the point where they embrace them storms. Be like, man, I'm going through something I already know. Guess what? Something got to be going to happen on the other end. Because we have to understand that in life, we are going to experience storms. There's no way we can't.
That's good. What is your advice for anyone that's listening that may feel stuck? They want healing, but they just feel stuck at the moment.
Wanting healing and feeling stuck is something that a lot of people experience. They're playing back and forth in their mind. Should I or shouldn't I? All the time. But if you're feeling stuck, sometimes you have to break those things down to understanding what you're going to get out of it and why. And sometimes we have to ask ourselves very hard questions, and sometimes we have to give ourselves very honest answers. Without nobody around, without nobody talking, we have to ask ourselves these questions.
Yeah.
So when you're feeling stuck, the only thing that you can do in that moment is figure out, okay, hey, why is it that I need this?
Yeah.
How important it is to me. Is it affecting me so bad in my everyday life that I have to do something? That's the question that you ask yourself. And if you can sit here and say, I think I really need this. A lot of people can say, I think I really need it, but they don't know the next step to take. They don't know how to put the next foot forward.
What should they do?
So the first thing when you're doing that is to seek counsel.
What about if they can't afford?
And if they can't afford counsel, you have to identify, I tell people all the time. I know we talk about it. You have to identify people in your life that can carry you and cover you.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't have that, especially not in their inner circle, right?
That's true.
Especially in their inner circle. That's why I say at the end of the day, sometimes when you look at situations, you ain't got nobody but God. And if you see God, he'll give you the answers.
Yeah.
But when you have people around you, it's okay to tell that person that, hey, this is what I need from you in this moment. I'm about to embark on something really tough.
Yeah.
And this is what I need from you. Or if you don't know what you need from them, I'm about to embark on something really, really tough. I need your help. I don't know how I need your help, but all I need for you to do is cover me and be there for me in this moment. I don't care if it's just talking it out, because sometimes that's where it starts. You got to talk those things out, right? You ever feel sometimes when a person is talking about something that's harmful to them or that's bothered them, and they kind of try to stop, they can't get it out, and they just don't want to talk about it anymore. Sometimes you have to encourage them to keep going.
Okay.
Encourage them to get it out,
But
right?
is it now they say boundaries? I reach my limit.
And here's the thing. When you want certain things go out the window. You know, I'll tell a friend of mine or something, or I want my friends to be honest with me. Like, look, if you want this for me and I'm trying to help you through this process, we ain't got no boundaries.
Right.
I have to be what I need to be for you in this
Yes.
moment. I'm not finna tap you on your shoulder, right? I'm not about to sugarcoat nothing for you. I'm not about to condone nothing. As your friend, I might have to have some tough conversations with you. I may have to say some things that you may not like
Right.
or that's tough for you. So I need you to be okay with that if that's what you need from me. And sometimes we'll say, okay, hey, I just want to talk to you. I just need you to listen, right? And if you really feel like you're that friend that I care about you so much that I can't see you broken to just listen,
Yeah.
that has to be stated too. Right? Because the first thing a person says when somebody says something that they don't like is, well, I didn't ask you for your opinion. I just was calling to talk to you and I didn't want you to do, it's like, well, hey, if you want to talk about some stuff, like sometimes you you can't have both.
Yeah.
So you have to determine what that looks like. Therapy is not a bad thing. It's not. And the stigma behind it is it's getting better. But I tell you, people look at therapy and they frown upon it because they feel like, okay, hey, am I crazy? That's not what therapy's for.
Yeah.
Right? Life coaching, right? It's a certain thing. You have different type of therapists.
Yeah.
And it depends on what you need. If you go to your therapist and say, hey, I just really want to just talk through some things. That's it. Some people don't want a therapist to challenge them.
Yeah. Some people don't want to be challenged at all.
Right. Some people don't want and people's like, okay, hey, I could sit here and take your money all day. But is that helpful to you?
Yeah.
And if you feel like you want to just vent, because some people just need to vent. They don't have anybody to vent through. They don't trust anyone with information because people have been ruined, broken, their deepest secrets exposed and talked about. Like, it's hard for people to open up these days.
Yeah.
Because when you have things like that are very touchy, you don't want to share that with just anybody.
You can't.
And some people feel like in order for me to keep this safe to where it doesn't get off, I have to pretty much keep it to myself.
Yes.
And what does that do when you keep it to yourself?
It turns into trauma. It turns into resentment.
You're not letting it out.
Yeah. You're holding it in.
You're holding it in. That's why we encourage a lot of times people to journal. Even now, if people don't like writing, there's apps that you can use. There's apps on your phone that are journal apps where you can do videos or talk it out or type it out and upload pictures. It's your journal. You have to find that way of releasing. You gotta have an outlet.
Yes.
Life is hard, and because we don't know how to deal with it and how to just finagle through life, we have to. When people tell you all the time, okay, I'm just gonna take it one day at a time. That's literally what you're doing, taking it one day at a time.
Yes.
And it's okay to go to God and say, God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get through this. And sometimes we don't know, but when we have to look at all of those situations when people are feeling just kind of stuck, you got to trust your instincts and trust your gut and trust yourself to know that I need to get through this. And when you feel like it's more of a need, some people say, I want to get through it. I need to get through this. And you have to start somewhere. Okay? Even if it's just small talking with a therapist, an accountability partner or friend that you can trust, that's a start. But also challenging yourself. Challenging yourself to say, hey, if I talk about this today, will I cry?
Yeah.
And if I do, Am I going to feel bad and say, you know what, I'm not doing this no more because I didn't want to go there? Or I'm going to say, you know what, this is the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to embrace that and that I can expect it. You have to know that these are things that you have to expect.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. But it's all a part of healing. Like, say, for instance, if somebody break up, you're going to cry for about 2-3 months or something like that. You're going to feel bad. Then guess what? You look up and you're like, man, I'm all better.
Yep. One thing about it.
Because you've had to go through the process.
Yes.
You can't run from that.
Yeah.
You get people all the time, I don't want to be hurt. Well, guess what? If you never love, how are you going? You got to expect it at some point. It's life.
Yeah. When you're dealing with people, that's inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But y'all heard it here first. Get your tickets. If you're in Houston, maybe you could fly in. Get your tickets. Her soul experience. You do not want to miss out.
You do not.
Okay? She dropped the gems. And I just can't wait for what I'm waiting in expectation for something big to happen in the room for each and every person that's going to be coming. Is it only for women or is it?
This conference is only for women now. Okay. I think if we do this again, it will be a little bit different because I do feel like men need healing too.
Yes.
But we are this time going to cater to the women. We have Tamika Foster Raymond that will be one of our panelists. Yokiris Diaz. Yokiris was facing 25 to life. Did 5 years. Amazing female. We have Samantha Lee Gibson. She's a clinical social worker, entrepreneur. She's going to be in the house. Crystal Clear is a trauma coach. She's going to be in the house. We have Tyressa Ty, who's going to be our host. It's going to be phenomenal. And when I tell you,
powerhouse,
I'm excited.
Yes.
I'm so excited for the women in the room already.
Yes.
And it's going to be an amazing event. And it's just the beginning. It's
just the beginning. Just the beginning.
Her soul, the experience is just the beginning.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It definitely is. Listen, this is your first therapy session. If you get your tickets, it's going to be
therapy session.
Yes. If you're ready for breakthrough, if you're ready for healing, if you don't know where to start, if you have questions, if you want to know more, get your tickets.
Get your tickets.
Get your tickets.
And don't be afraid. And if you are, I'm available. She Counsels is my Instagram handle.
Yes.
You guys can follow me on Instagram.
I'll have all that listed.
She'll have all of my information listed. Send me a message, you know. I'm an open book. So I'm all about healing. I'm all about helping. So if you're that person that don't know if this is something that you need or not, let me know and we can talk through it. And if you're that person that know that you need this, visit the website, www.koshajoseph.com. Get you a ticket and be in the room, right? And if you're a person that don't feel like you're there yet, bless another lady. Somebody needs this. We're breaking barriers and we're going to get it done. And it's going to be amazing.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Comfortably Me. Bless each and every person that's going to be listening to this podcast, because I know it's going to bless y'all. The words of wisdom that was dropped on this episode. And I just want to extend just peace to each and every person to know that if tears is falling down your eyes because you want it so bad and you just don't know where to start, or you just feel overwhelmed, let me tell you, it can happen for you. And do not ever feel like, oh, I'm just so broken. I'm just so broken. Do not believe the lie of the enemy. What has happened to you is not your identity. Yes, it happened to you, but you can overcome it. You don't have to stay stuck.
Absolutely.
And you are not a broken person. And if you feel like you're broken, go to the person that can build you back up again. God. He can build you back up again. There's nothing that God cannot do for you. So I love y'all. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Heavy on me, focused on God and who I'm trying to be.